Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. Yesterday we reacted to my Formula 1 2023 grid predictions. Now let's do some early ones for 2024. This is very early, and honestly anything could happen between now and the start of 2023, let alone the start of 2024. Maybe Spain will decide to make Fernando Alonso president and he won't have time to be a Formula 1 driver anymore. Maybe Yuki Tsunoda will swap his legs for a couple of brooms and clean the streets of Spain more. Who knows? I sure don't. So subscribe now and let's put together a Formula 1 grid for 2024. Williams. Williams are not going to sack their new American driver unless Logan Sargeant proves to be absolutely terrible. Considering the last few Americans to race in Formula 1, namely Alexander Rossi, who raced for Marussia and never had a chance, Scott Speed, who didn't go very fast, and Michael Andretti, the less said the better. Logan Sargeant is a good driver, but he is prone to crashing, so he may get replaced early, but I think he'll get at least a second year with Williams. The team run by an American company as Formula 1 enters the era of 3 American Grand Prix a year, but I don't think Alexander Albon will still be there in 2024. He'll be replaced by Jamie Chadwick, who will finally get a chance in Formula 1 after pressure from fans for the FIA to make an extra effort to get a woman into Formula 1. And honestly, if it is going to be anyone, it will be Jamie Chadwick. AlphaTauri. This depends firstly on how good the AlphaTauri team are in 2023. Nick De Vries will do at least 2 years with the team as he gains experience. The Formula 2 and Formula E champion is not going to be at the front of the field at his first real attempt, and especially not in an AlphaTauri. That struggled to score points in 2022. Yuki Tsunoda will get the chop before a 4th season in F1. He'll be replaced by another Japanese driver in Ayumu Iwasa. The Formula 2 driver hasn't impressed in Formula 2 of Dams in 2022. He took a couple of wins and broke into the top 10 in the championship at his first attempt. I'm predicting a really good year in 2023, maybe even a tilt at the title, and with Yuki Tsunoda struggling to perform for a 3rd season in a row, Iwasa will get called up to Formula 1 with AlphaTauri alongside Nick De Vries. Haas. It's hard to predict what Haas will do. Just when you think things are settling down for the American team, they get thrown a curveball. Either sponsors turn out to be a lot dodgier than anticipated, or drivers turn out to be terrible. Sometimes they change both drivers, sometimes they're forced to draft one in right before a season starts. They let Kevin Magnussen go at the end of the 2020 season, only to be pushed to sign him up again at the start of 2022 to replace a Nikita Mazepin who was politically a liability and hopeless on the track. It turned out well for them in the end, but switching Mick Schumacher for Nico Hülkenberg fills me with less confidence, both in Haas as a team and humanity in general. I predict he has a bad year and relations with Haas turn sour and he immediately gets chucked for Enzo Fittipaldi, who will win the 2023 Formula 2 Championship. I have predicted several times that Pietro Fittipaldi would get a full-time Haas drive, but I think that ship has sailed and it's time for Enzo Fittipaldi to prove he is superior and get a full-time drive as the 5th F1 Fittipaldi. Aston Martin. I called this last year, but I'm going all in again for 2024. Lawrence Stroll will finally tie an anchor to his son and chuck him overboard, replacing him with the far superior Felipe Drugovich. It might not be as dramatic as that, but I do believe Lance Stroll will perform as well as he always does in 2023, and Felipe Drugovich will impress behind the scenes, and Lawrence Stroll's hand will be forced. Fernando Alonso will still be there in 2024 because he will never retire. With Aston Martin being the most ambitious team on the grid, it'll be interesting to see if they can make any progress up the field. Alfa Romeo. With just 2 years until this team becomes Audi in 2026, I would be surprised if this team makes any drastic changes. I guess it depends on Valtteri Bottas. After taking wins for Mercedes, can he deal with being in the midfield for more than a couple of years, or will the allure of the World Endurance Championship, which I do believe will be his destiny, be too hard to resist? I'm going for the latter. Bottas will be a Porsche hypercar driver in 2024, maybe even taking a win at Le Mans. So we need a replacement, and I think Théo Pourchaire, the current Alfa Romeo reserve driver, will fit the bill. He is very young, but has already shown pace, even if he needs more consistency. Guan Yu Zhou will still be there, Chinese money will keep him on the grid for a while, and he will hopefully put in some decent performances, as long as the Alfa Romeo turns out to be more reliable than it was in 2022. McLaren. They have 2 of the brightest stars in Formula 1 right now. they're not going to make any changes in 2024. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri are both young and supremely talented, and McLaren are better with both drivers under contract. I think this will put an end to the hopes of any IndyCar drivers looking to come over to Formula 1, at least for another year, unless Patricio O'Ward or Colton Herta impress so much someone else grabs them. Maybe Patricio O'Ward will be McLaren's reserve driver at some point, but I can't see him unseating either of these two young studs. Alpine. Again, like McLaren, this team is not going to make any changes in 2024. The mess of their driver lineup in 2022 will still be fresh in their mind, having lost both Fernando Alonso and Oscar Piastri to rival teams, in a manner that can only be described as a PR disaster. They're going to be cautious in the driver market for a few years, and in Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly they have two decent drivers at the helm, and Jack Doohan is doing very well in the junior series below Formula 1, so they have another very talented Australian waiting in the wings. Hopefully this one doesn't run off. Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton, like Fernando Alonso, is never going to retire. He is going to cling on to the hope of winning an 8th championship as long as he can. He has business interests outside of Formula 1, so if it ever happens and he does leave, he will probably be alright. He's not exactly going to end up in a hostel. George Russell too ain't going nowhere. These two are Mercedes golden boys and they can race there as long as they please. Whether Mercedes return to the front of the grid at some point remains to be seen. I think we will see a Mercedes drive on the top step of the podium again soon, so they won't have to wait long. But if they can stay there and win the championships again, that's the challenge facing the German manufacturer. Ferrari. Carlos Sainz Jr. and Charles Leclerc will still be there. I can't see how Ferrari could really upgrade right now. It's more about stopping the blunders from a team perspective. Not all of their faults are on the drivers. If Ferrari can sort themselves out, then both these drivers are capable of competing for the top prize. Out of the three top teams, I think this pair has the most to prove, given Ferrari haven't tasted any kind of championship success for 15 years. Ferrari could go either way, but if they maintain their place at the front, then Leclerc and Sainz will be with the Scuderia. Red Bull. This is the shock of the list. Max Verstappen will of course still be at Red Bull in 2024. If they dominate as they did in 2022, then he can start to think about chasing down records. Red Bull will not get rid of their golden goose, and Max Verstappen won't want to step away from a top team, so their partnership is pretty secure. Sergio Perez is on shakier ground. If he can't keep up the performances he managed in 2022, or his relationship with Verstappen sours further, then he will be out. And I think he will be gone by 2024, replaced by Alexander Albon. Maybe for just a year if they fancy Nick de Vries for a Dutch double act. But this could be a redemption arc for the Thai driver, who was unceremoniously sacked by Red Bull at the end of 2020, and has since made his return, impressed all over again, and in place of Sergio Perez, presents a decent, familiar, and by then experienced alternative. He could finally be a race winner in Formula 1 in 2024. So, to sum up, Logan Sargent and Jamie Chadwick at Williams, Nick de Vries and Ayumu Iwasa at AlphaTauri, Kevin Magnussen and Enzo Fittipaldi at Haas, Fernando Alonso and Felipe Drugovich at Aston Martin, Guan Yu Zhou and Theo Pourchaire at Alfa Romeo, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri at McLaren, Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly at Alpine, George Russell and Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes, Carlos Sainz Jr. and Charles Leclerc at Ferrari, and Max Verstappen and Alex Albon at Red Bull. I would be shocked if any of this turns out to be true. It would be a mega shift in policy for Jamie Chadwick to have enough super license points by 2024. Aston Martin will never sack Lance Stroll, and whilst it's a nice story for Albon to get another chance at Red Bull, it's unlikely to happen. But I'm going for it anyway. Who knows what can happen in the wacky world of Formula 1. Leave your thoughts and predictions in the comments below, leave a like and tell your friends. Make sure you subscribe. Thank you for watching and have a good one.